Good evening. Welcome everyone. Here we are Monday night. And we would like to thank the Beis Medrash, Levi Yitzchak, for their continuous support for the Shiurim, and anyone who is intrigued, interested in assisting with the Shiurim, please visit rabbikras.com. It is Tes Vav Elul today, which is the anniversary of the founding of the Dear Yeshiva Tomchei Mimim. In the Litvish world, they say that Volozhin was the mother of all yeshivas, the mother of all yeshivas. By Chassidim, we would say that Tomchei Mimim is our mother, your mother. Tomchei Mimim is the mama, a different sentiment. Not comparing, contrasting to other yeshivas, but Tomchei Mimim itself is a Bacher's mother, with all the meaning that holds. But tonight's topic, booby traps. Booby trapping your home, your office, your car, your chair, your food. It's my property. If somebody, you enter at your own risk. Is one allowed to booby trap their possessions? And if someone goes where they shouldn't go, their hands go where they shouldn't, then let them suffer the dire consequences. What does the Torah, what does Halacha have to say about this? Very practical question. Why are we discussing it tonight? Well, the new year has begun, and a number of, I got some new neighbors, Bachrim, have moved next door to me, and you can never be too careful with your neighbors. So the question immediately was, what do I have at my disposal? Bachrim cannot get up to who knows what. Rabbi, so sorry, did we wake you up? Wake me up, halavai. I couldn't get to sleep. So what is the deal with booby traps? And we're coming from Parshas Kiseitze. In Parshas Kiseitze, there are many mitzvahs, right? It's the parsha with the most mitzvahs. So there is a particular mitzvah known as a makeh, a fence around your roof. It's a mitzvah aseh to make a makeh around the roof, and in order that nobody shall fall. It's pashut safety. It's not just advice, it's an instruction, it's a mitzvah. It's a biblical command, one of the 613, to make a makeh around the roof. And in number 1, we have a Gemara in Baba Kama, where the Gemara says, it's talking about someone who owns some animals that are running wild, and they're a public hazard. They're damages. They're destroying other people's property. Ubenkach, the Gemara says in number 1, this is Baba Kama 15b, Tesvav Amid Beis, Mishamtinon Le. We put the owner of these dangerous animals in Chedim, we excommunicate him, Adam Misalik Hazek, until he gets rid of the damage. He kills the animals, he sends them abroad, he gets them out of town, something. Which is right, where if in Goyish law, if an alligator attacks a human, or if an animal attacks a human, boom, they put the animal down. Here it's not even the animal attacked a human, they're just a public nuisance. You got to get rid of them. How do we know that a public damager must be removed? Mid Rab Nosson, from the law of Rab Nosson. To Tanya, because there's a Braisa. Rabbi Nosson, Rab Nosson says, Minayin, how do you know Shalo Yigadol Adam? You're not supposed to have an evil dog, a vicious dog in your home. And everyone will say, come on, my dog's not vicious, but the neighbor's dog, right? You can't have a vicious dog in your home. Example 2, Va'al Yamid Sulam Re'ua B'Seich Beisai. One cannot have a faulty ladder in his home, even though he's aware of it. You can't have it because they're potential danger. Talmud Loim, it's all learned from the pasuk about a makeh, about a fence around the roof. Loi sosim domim beveisecha. God says that you can't have a danger in your home. Somebody gets hurt, the blood's going to be your responsibility. You got to remove all potential dangers from your home. So they say that the pasuk doesn't say on your roof, even though it was talking about making a fence around the roof. It says bebeisech, on your home. So the pasuk is hinting to the fact, the original halach is a fence around the roof, But from there you can derive, b'veisecha, even in your home, anything which has a potential danger must be removed. This is what the Gemara says. Number 2, there's a maharsha in the Gemara, very important maharsha. Minayin, how do you know shelo yigadol kelev ra? You shouldn't have an evil dog and not have a sulam re'ua. Hoisif b'zeh, says the maharsha, what's Rabbi Noson's chiddush? Av shekvar hizra kosev ala maika, even though the pasuk clearly says the fence around the roof, but that's mipnei dorei b'nei beisai. That makes sense because your family, if you don't have a fence around the roof, what happens? Your wife and kids go up to play and your kids go on the roof. The gods, there's a shelo yiplum, they themselves shouldn't fall from the roof. But you might think of a gadol kelev ra, but a vicious dog, but the dog loves your kids, right? Your kids come home, the dog comes running and licking. Best friends, right? Best friends with the kids. The family won't be hurt by the dog. They're buddy buds. This vicious dog is vicious to others, not to the family. So what's the purpose of the dog? Well, if it's a vicious dog, right? If it's a friendly dog, it's a friendly dog. Man's best friend, right? But if it's a vicious dog, so what's the purpose of it? Why does the owner of the house have this dog? Protection. Protect the home. Beware of the dog. So for the family, there's no sakana. So why can't I have such a vicious dog? What's the point? Well, what's the issue? Intruders shouldn't be coming in. My family get along with the dog. V'sotu v'sulam ru'ua, with the shaky ladder, yadu by b'nei beis, so the family knows about it. But va'afal became, that's the chiddush of Rabbi Nosson. Even by the dog and the ladder, where seemingly it can be argued, what's the big deal? My family, they're trained with the dog's trained with them. They're very well aware and conscious about the shaky ladder. Nonetheless, Rabbi Nosson says you can't have that in your home. So what's the Maharsha saying? Why can't you have the vicious dog? Because so Ganovim shouldn't get hurt? You can't have the vicious dog so the thief can actually be successful in his theft? Is that the vart? Is that the vart? Or the vart is that you may think your family's secure, but you never know. I don't know. Well, one of your kids may one day forget about the letter, right? They know in Indian, but one day may forget. A vicious dog's friendly, but one day may explode even on the family. Right? That makes more sense to learn the Maharsha. The first option is no, maybe pashut for the intruder. You have to protect the intruder, which sounds absolutely foreign. That you have to protect an intruder in your home, which would mean you cannot have a booby trap. If you learn the Maharsha the first way, you cannot have a booby trap. It's precisely because of the intruders you can't have the vicious dog. If you learn the second way, no. The issue is the family itself may get hurt from those things. So this Maharsha is an important piece of information. Historically, do we find people throughout history setting a booby trap? In other words, in their territory, creating a hazard for the unwanted trespasser. You come at your own risk. So there's a fascinating story in number 3. A great story. About 800 years ago, R Yechiel of Parizh. Who's R Yechiel of Parizh? So in the chain of the Baalei Tosfos, he holds a very important slot. And that is Rabbeinu Tam. After him was his nephew, the Ri. The Ri, Reb Yitzchak, the Ri Hazaken, as is known, the elder Ri, had many students. Foremost amongst them would be his successor, whose name was also Reb Yitzchak, known as the younger Ri, the Ri Abocher, the young Ri, also known as the Ritzvah, Reb Yitzchak ben Avraham. And there was a Rabbi Yehuda there, who was a relative of the Ri and a great student, and he went to Paris. Rabbi Yehuda, he was known as Rabbi Yehuda Sir Leon. Leon is French, lion, Yehuda, Sir Leon. And he had a great yeshiva in Paris. Wasn't the first, or before him there was already Rebbe Yehoshua of Parizh, who had numerous debates with Rabbeinu Tam. So you have Rabbi Yehuda of Parizh, and he has a legendary yeshiva in Paris, and he was succeeded by Reb Yechiel of Parizh. Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh in turn has many students. Amongst them is the Maram of Rottenburg, who is the teacher of the Rosh, who's the father of the Tur. So you go all the way from Rashi to the Tur. There's a few ways of going, but one of the ways is through Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh. And the Tur, of course, codifies all of the, the Ashkenazi opinions of halacha. So Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh was a very important personality. He's famous for a debate that took place in 1242 in Paris, where he had a student who years before this student of Rabbi Yechiel said, you know what, I believe in the Chumash, I believe in the prophets, I believe in the Ksuvim, but the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, I don't trust a word of it. And Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh, I think he put him in a cherem, he excommunicated him. And this guy went off the deep end. He ended up having a huge debate. His name was Nicholas Donin. Donin. And Rabbi Yechiel writes about him that his name is Donin. Nin is to have great-grandchildren. He ain't going to have any great-grandchildren. Rabbi Yechiel wrote this about him, not when he first had the quarrel with him, but years later, in 1242, when Nicholas had Rabbi Yechiel summoned to a debate. The Pope had gotten involved. The issue was that the accusation was that the Gemara is heavily anti-Christian, anti-Gentile, and the debate was to defend the Gemara. Justified statements in the Gemara. There are many statements in Gemara that were objectionable in the eyes of the church, and there was a big debate. Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh, his friend Rab Moshe of Kutsi, the Smag, and others, and the Christians claimed victory, like they often did even before the debate began, and 24 wagon loads of manuscripts were burnt, which was a colossal amount, and this is before the printing press. Every Gemara is worth its weight in gold. It took months and months and months to write. And many manuscripts of Rishonim were burnt and lost forever. And after this, Rabbi Yechiel, in the end of his life, he makes his way to Eretz Yisrael. And he was famous for believing that even these days you could bring karbonos, because the Rambam believes, even without a Beis HaMikdash, if you can locate the exact place of the Mizbeach, okay, you would need Koyanim, you would need the clothes of the Koyan, and Tuma, being Tomei, presents an issue. But in theory, you could bring karbonos. And a carbon psak, which could be an individual obligation, could be a carbon yachid, individual obligation. Rabbi Yechiel was really pro it. And many people spoke about this over time. And there's a big debate if he ended up in Israel at the end of his life, if Rabbi Yechiel ended up in Israel, did he not end up in Israel? Historians go in all directions, because they can. We don't have ironclad proof in any direction. Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh, though, was famous for having electricity. It's known even by the Goyim that the Egyptians also used to manipulate some forms of electricity for energy. Not to the extent that the last couple of centuries, of course, but to some extent. And there's a whopping story about Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh and his electric lamp and the booby trap. And what am I talking about? Join me number 3. The Seder HaDoros is quoting, this is Rabbi Yechiel Halpern 300 years ago. He's quoting from the Shalshelis HaKabbalah, who was an Italian rabbi 450 years ago. So says the Seder HaDoros, he's quoting the Shalshelis HaKabbalah. Ra'isi, I saw Bekuntris, there's a few more. It's just one page, double-sided. Come collect, Bachim, come collect. I saw in a kuntris, I saw in a pamphlet, a manuscript, that the holy man Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh was also a chacham b'Kabbalah ma'asis, in practical Kabbalah. And in his base medrash there was a ner shaman, there was a candle of oil, and he would light it on every Friday, and it would light the entire week without oil. And it was well known amongst all the people of the city until it reached the ears of the king of France. And he sent messengers to ask him, what's the deal? So Yechiel vayichbar, he denied it. He didn't want to take credit. And also he did not wish that they should feel he's a sorcerer. During the Dark Ages, if somebody was believed to be a sorcerer, they would kill witches and sorcerers, horrible deaths. He did not want them believing that he was up to black magic. So he denied it. So the king thought, you know what, I'll go myself. And he decided with his ministers he's going to go on a Tuesday night. Tuesday night. The night that he's least expecting, right? Vihine, because Monday night, he wouldn't be home because Monday night is shir. But Tuesday night, either happens more often on Tuesday night than Monday night. Vihine hoyaminig ha'ir. The custom was that the Paritzim, the landlords or the goyim who had no boundaries, would knock at night on the house of the Jews, demanding things. Hand over this, hand over that. So the Chassid R Yechiel of Parizh had no patience for this. In order they should not disturb his learning, he would have a nail, and his nail was stuck in the ground. When the Paritzim would bang on the door, he had a hammer near him. He would bang on the nail with the hammer, and then a pit would open up in front of the door, and whoever was there would sink into the ground. That's what he had. A trap door. Va'ata, but tonight the king came, and the king was knocking on the door. Now the rabbi was learning, he did his regular thing. Makeh b'patish, he hit with the hammer, and the melech nitzel admos of the king got stuck in this trap till his hips. So what did the king do? Somehow he was still near, he was able to bang on the bottom part of the door. When they knocked the second time, so the Rebbe was like, again? He hits the second time. But this time, somehow the nail snapped. It flew across the room, and the whole trap fell apart. The king was raised back to the street level, right? The Rav Yechiel was like, what? This never happened before, right? The booby trap has never failed before. The army said, this must be the king. It must be, this is a king, and that's why this happened. So he opened the door, and he bowed down to the king. He said, please be meichel me. I didn't realize it was you. But the melech was still afraid. Because when the mismar, when the nail exited the ground, he also exited the pit. But they were worried they may fall again into the ground. So they said to the king says to Yechiel, help us, get us out of here. So he brought them into the house, to the fire. He gave them some sweets, and they relaxed until they regained their strength. So he asked the king, what brings you here so late at night? Don't you know there's a ruach echad? Right? How did he cover up on himself? He told them there's a spirit next to my door, which it sends to the ground anyone that comes to harm me. Anyone that comes to harm me, this spirit casts them underground into this pit. And if I wouldn't have come to save you, you would have disappeared. You would have been completely swallowed up. A good cover-up, right? So the king said, I was already swallowed up, and thanks that you saved me. But now I'm here, now I can tell you. Why am I here? I heard you are a professional sorcerer. You have black magic on the back of your hand. And the proof is that you have a candle that burns without oil. Right? Like a train being pulled without horses. So Yechiel says, I'm not a mechashef, I'm not a sorcerer. Ani chochem b'chochmas hateva. I know physics, I know science. And I know segulus. I can do cute things that people wouldn't expect are possible. And he showed him the candle burning without oil. He said, there is some material, it's a choimer meir kamoy shemen. Doesn't really describe what it was. It was a choimer meir. There was something there that gave off light. It works like oil, but it wasn't oil. It wasn't a liquid. And the melech was so bewildered. He said, you're going to come to my chutz. I want you to be an advisor for me. And Rabbi Yechiel became wealthy and honored. And of course, what happens then? The Goyish ministers were envious. And they informed on him. And they told the king that if you touch his cup of wine, he won't drink with you. Speaking of which, l'chaim, the birth of Tomchei Tmimim, the birth of Lubavitch Yeshivas, may they continue to grow and give the Rabbeim lots of nachas and produce strong Bochrim, ehrliche, honest Bochrim, happy Bochrim, joyous Bochrim, Bochrim that learn and serve the Eibishter b'simcha b'tuv levav. L'chaim. So the day came, and the king was taki. He was pressured with all the respect he had for Yechiel, but when his ministers, are, repeating these negative tales day in, day out, so the king, all right. He gave a cup of wine to the Jew to drink. And you know what Rabbi Yechiel said? He said, at this moment I can't drink. But before you leave your table, boy, will I drink. Right? So the king, he didn't completely ignore the king's request. So the king, okay, he had patience. When the time came to wash their hands, so after the king ate, he was washing his hands in a gold keli. Rabbi Yechiel ran, he picked up the keli of the king's dirty water and he drank it. And he said, this water I desire because I'm allowed to drink it. But the wine, which God has not allowed me, I couldn't drink. But you think I'm not loyal to you? No one else. Who else is going to drink the water that touched your hands? The oil. And the king was very pleased by that, and he loved him even more. And the Shalshel Zechariah finishes, and I heard a similar story about the Rambam and others, etc. So this is a fascinating tale on many accounts. The reason I quoted it is because R Yechiel of Parizh had a booby trap. Now, it does say the purpose was for Goyim, but just like the king came, he didn't know it was the king, right? And so if a Yid would have come, the same thing would have happened. So this is a danger. It's a danger. And yet, he had it. So how do we explain that? Do we have any other sources? Rabbi Yechiel of Parizh is in the early 1200s. Passes away around 1260. No, going earlier, do we have others that had booby traps? If you look at number 6, it's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. The story of Amnon and Tamar, right? And Amnon violated Tamar, and then it says Amnon hated her sinna gedola ma'od. The times of David HaMelech's kids, Amnon hates Tamar incredibly. What's this all about? My timer. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak said, Rabbi Yitzchak, Nima nikshur, that he violated her, and she had some hair inside of her, that part of the body. There was some hair that got caught up, and it wrapped around his male organ, and did some serious damage. Gave him a big cut. Vasota krushavcha. Halachically, he was considered to have a cut member. So the Gemara asks, that's why he hated it. It was an accident. Even if it happened that it got tied to him, what did she do? Why did he hate her? You know what happened? She put it there. She put it inside of her, planning that if he would violate her, he would suffer big time. Right? She made him a krushavcha. So Gemara says, Eini, it's not true, but Rava said, what does it mean that the women amongst the Jewish women have a name of beauty even amongst the Goyim? That ein lohen lebnei Yisrael lo yisar beis hashechi v'lo beis ha'erva. Jewish girls don't have anybody here. They don't have anybody here. Back in the day, Jewish girls, there was a time that naturally a posha didn't grow body hair. Beis hashech is in the underarms, and beis ha'erva is by the private area. There was no hair. Now this is a big problem because ever since we got the Torah, to know if a girl's an adult, 12 years old, she needs to have 2 pubic hairs. So what this Gemara means, the Mefarshim discuss. The Gemara says Tamar was different. The Bas Yafas Torah Havoi. Her mother was captured in war. She was a Yafas Torah, a beautiful woman in war who's kind of coerced into converting. And because she had this Goyisha background, so her body produced this hair. Okay, the hair thing is really, I can't answer about the hair because it's really not negay. What's negay? What? Yeah. So the The first two lines, though, the Gemara says she set this trap. It wasn't in her house or in her car or in her bedroom. It was in her body. On the other hand, he had no business going in there, right? Enter at your own risk. So here you have a case of a booby trap, right?
It didn't cause any pain to anyone else. What do you mean?
But it's a booby trap. Maybe didn't the Marsha, a simple reading of the Marsha in number 2 was you can't have a vicious dog in your home because of the Ganov, may get hurt. The people that aren't supposed to come in. So this is a little more than a Ganov, right? It's a rapist, a befart. It's the idea of a booby trap. If you join me, okay, hold on. One more story. This is still by way of introduction. Turn the page to number 10. Turn the page to number 10. This is in Masechta Derech Eretz. Okay, Derech Eretz Rabbah. I think it's in the 5th parak. So in the back, if you take a set of shots in the back of the volume that has Masechta Sanhedrin, so in the back you have all these Masechtas Ktanas, small Masechtas. One of them Masechta Derech Eretz. Look at number 10. La'olam yiu kol bnei adam chashuvim l'fanecha kalistim. You meet someone new, he's a potential thief. Right? You meet somebody, they could be your teacher, could be anybody, right? So you see someone, they look like a long beard, a long payas, and a big yarmulke. You never know, they could rob you blind. Everyone should be l'fanecha kalistim. But does it mean to disgrace him? No, fakert. You should honor them like Rabban Gamliel, as if they're the Jewish leader. It's a dichotomy. On the one hand, on every Jew you meet, you don't know a thing about the person, you treat him like Moshe, you honor him. You honor him. But you got to be on your guard. If it's someone you don't know, you got to be on your guard. U'maisa's story about Rabbi Yehoshua, shehishkim etzei adam, someone came to Rabbi Yehoshua, lived in Eretz Yisrael, was it in Pekin, and stayed by his house, right? By the Rav's house. In many places in Europe, the Rav's house was a go-to for any wayfarer. Often they had a hektish house, for the wayfarers, a place to sleep in. But in addition to that, or maybe in lieu of that, the house of the Rav was known to be open. People would go to the houses of the Rav for meals and to sleep there. Reb Chaim Brisker, right, the great Torah genius, asked that on his matzeva, it should only say Isha Chesed, a man of kindness. That's what it should say in his matzeva, a man of kindness. Not about his learning as a scholar, a man of kindness. He would give up his bed for wayfarers he didn't even know. And it's also known that if women would sometimes have children that for whatever reason they couldn't keep or didn't want to keep, or legitimate children, Reb Chaim would get children, babies on his doorstep, and he would raise them. And Reb Chaim's mamzedim, they were called. But, because no one knew what to do, but Reb Chaim, Anyhow, so someone came to stay by the house of Rabbi Yehoshua. V'nozi gave him food and drink. Ve'leil legag, he took him up to the roof, meaning the upstairs. Lishkav, he gave him a room in the upstairs. There was no staircase, there was a ladder. That was the staircase. And Rabbi Yehoshua, not al sulam mitachtav, after the guy went to his room, Rabbi Yehoshua took the ladder away. He removed the ladder. What did this guy do? Amad b'chatzia, the guy got up in the middle of the night. The notal sakelim, the guy gets up in the middle of the night. What does he have in his room? I don't know, what did Rabbi Yehoshua give him? Gave him a bottle of water, a bar of chocolate, some negovasser, books, who knows what. The guy found whatever kalim he could find in the upstairs. V'krachan betalisai. It's like in those laundry bags or in a garbage bag. He puts it in his talus. He wraps it all. It's the middle of the night. This is all upstairs. The kivan shabikish layered, when he wanted to descend, he didn't realize that there's no ladder. Nafal min agag, so he fell. Ouch. V'nishbra mafrakta, he broke the top of his spine. He didn't die, he was just paralyzed for a while. He couldn't even talk. L'shachris, so in the morning, Rabbi Yehoshua wakes up. Ubo matzah, he finds the guy, the guy's lying on the floor. Armaloi, so Rabbi Yehoshua realized what happened, right? This guy had the bag full of the stolen goods was next to him. He said, Reika, empty one. Kach oisim b'nei Adam, this is what people like you do. I host you, I take care of you, and this is how you repay kindness. So Armaloi, what did he say? He said, Rebbe, I made a mistake. I didn't realize you took the ladder. He doesn't defend us. He's like, it's like the rabbi of the town walks past the home. He looks through the window and there's 4 guys playing cards on Shabbos. And he comes in and he looks at one guy, Yankel, what are you doing? Oh, Rabbi, I forgot it was Shabbos. Beryl, what are you doing? Oh, I forgot you can't play on Shabbos. Everyone had an excuse. And then he turned to the owner of the house. Mustama, you forgot something too. He says, yeah, I forgot to pull down the blinds. Rebbe, loyal yisi day. I didn't realize you nataltis asula mitachte. I didn't realize you took the ladder from underneath. Amarli said, Reika, empty one. Don't you realize it already from yesterday? I smelled something. That's why I took away but I took care of you. Not a contradiction. Rabbi Yehoshua says, La'olam yiziyu kol b'ram b'necha kalistim. Anyone you see is a potential thief. But you respect them, you honor them like you would the leader of the Jews. This is a very cute story, sad story for the guy. But l'chayra Rabbi Yehoshua, Booby trapped his home. It's dark, the guy can't see. What was Rabbi Yehoshua thinking when he took away the ladder? That this should happen? So he was potentially harming the person. So it's another case of causing harm. But not stop, but causing harm by doing, in my property, I could do what I want in my property, and if you're going to try and violate theft, do it at your own risk. So this leads us to the following story. It happened in America. I think it happened somewhere in Boston, but it happened in some university. There was a chemistry class, and there was a particular student who was a master of chemistry, but he was a geek, I guess. He was harassed by his classmates. They used to harass him. Socially, he wasn't a great success, but in his studies, he was fantastic. And every day, one of the bullies of the class would go to his backpack, open up the backpack, the knapsack, and eat the guy's lunch when the guy wasn't watching. And then during lunchtime, this student would open up his knapsack, and lo and behold, his lunch was eaten again. His lunch was eaten again. It's like the guy, he opens up his knapsack. I hope this is not peanut butter. I hope it's not peanut butter. He opens it up. Peanut butter. So his friend says, tell your wife you don't like peanut butter. I make my own sandwiches. So every day the guy opens up his opens up his backpack. There's no sandwich. There's nothing there. And he was harassed. He didn't know who the bully was. He didn't know there were a number of bullies. He didn't know who was the guy that was taking the sandwich. So one day, in the middle of chemistry class, the class after lunch, one of the guys falls off his chair and is choking. He's fighting for his life. And this student gets up and says, aha! You're the thief! I poisoned my sandwich. I put poison in the sandwich to figure out who the thief is. This guy was dying, but the student, he was great in chemistry, he had prepared an antidote. So they quickly administered the antidote to this bully, and the bully recovered. But from then on, nobody harassed this student anymore. He was considered a king now. He was, wow. That was courage, that was wisdom. He was a king of the class. So there was a Jewish student in the class, and he brought this question, or through a professor, the question came to Eretz Yisrael, to one of today's greatest rabbis, Rabbi R Zilberstein. He's an elderly Yid. He's a great scholar in Eretz Yisrael. He's married. His wife is a daughter of Rabbi Yosef. So he's a brother-in-law of Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, who was also married to a sister. And Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein is a scholar in general, but he particularly enjoys medical ethics and bechlal, creative questions, out-of-the-box questions. And at one point, he was giving a seminar to doctors, medical ethics and halacha. And somebody there posed this question to him. Halachically, was the student justified in doing what they did? Can you poison the sandwich? Place a booby trap. It's in my sandwich, in my knapsack. This person wants to eat, they do it at their own risk. And as soon as Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein was asked a question, he gave an answer. He said, are you allowed? Forget about allowed. It's a mitzvah. Yeah, dafka poison the sandwich. Let the ganav suffer his due. Where's it based on? It's based on a Gemara in number 4. Join me in number 4. There's a Gemara in Baba Kama. The Gemara in Baba Kama is quoting a Mishnah. The Mishnah is actually from Ma'aser Sheni, which is important. Kerem Ravoy. Back in the day, if you have a vineyard, Kerem Ravoy means the grapes of the vineyard. The first 3 years, they're Arlah, can't have any benefit. Asher Bano, the 4th year, they're to be taken to Eretz Yisrael and eaten in Yerushalayim, just like Ma'aser Sheni. If it's too much to carry, you redeem it on money, and the money you bring to Yerushalayim. Fine. But if someone has a farm in Israel, and it's the 4th year of the grapes, and they're still growing, he doesn't want people to accidentally eat from these grapes. It's also deraisa to eat from them, unless they're redeemed. So they would be mitzayin, so the farmers would make a sign on these grapes, b'kzuzos adama, with clusters or bunches of dirt. Shimona, what's the sign? That these grapes are just like earth. Just like earth, ika hanamina, you can get benefit from it if you use it wisely, you plant with the earth in the future. Af hainami, so to these fruits, you could have benefit from them if you redeem them on money. Ki mifrika, if you redeem them shari, it's allowed lisanui to benefit. What about the Arlah fruits? So they would put up charoshes and pieces of clay. What's the simon? Just like clay. Clay there's no broken pieces of clay, you toss them. There's nothing to do with them. So too, the fruits of the first 3 years are also forever. Right? Even if you pluck it off the tree and you wait a year, it doesn't become 4th year fruits. It remains a 3rd year fruits also forever. What about kavaris? What about in Eretz Yisrael? You have a caver. You don't want koyanim to accidentally walk over a caver or a nazir. Bashid, they would have lime. What's the meaning? Well, lime is white, to tell you there's bones over here. Mamcha v'shoifich, they would mix a lot of water into the lime and pour it, so it should be very white. Kihechid the nichver be very white. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Bamed var mamur. When do the farmers take care to put us to basically making a sign by the fruit, the grapes in the 4th year, or the Arlah b'shvi is during Shemitah. The hefker, because since it's hefker, anyone's allowed to walk in your fields and take them. So do these people a favor and let them be in the know-how that these particular fruits are forbidden. Aval b'shash ne shavua, the other years of the 7-year cycle. What is that guy doing in my field? If someone's trespassing in my field, let him eat the Arlah. Let him eat the neter avoy, the kedem avoy. Haliteyu l'rasha v'yamus. Pour it in the wicked man's house and mouth and let him die, right? Like Esav told Yaakov, that same expression. Pour it into my mouth. Let the Rasha enjoy, let him indulge. Fakir, don't tell him it's Arlah. He wants to eat stolen goods, let him suffer. That's what it says. And Allah follows Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. So said R Yechiel of Parizh, he said, listen, what do you see from this command? Allah follows Shimon ben Gamliel. If someone's doing something wrong, you don't go out of your way to protect him. So if that ganav is stealing my sandwich, poison the sandwich. You don't have to put a sign on the sandwich, this is dangerous. Just like you don't have to put on a sign on Arlah or Kedem Revoy if the guy is a thief and shouldn't be going there in the first place. That's the halacha that he gave. To which he was then challenged. Now, R Yechiel of Zilberstein discusses this in a number of places. There were a few letters that he wrote about it that were printed in the Torah Journal in the year 2000. Pam Yaakov, the Torah Journal. He writes about it also in his Sefer Chashukei Chemed. It's quite a long piece, about 14 pages or something. He writes very beautifully. It's a very nice read. And he writes about even some other places as well. So he really discussed this at length. He is Morei Dahai Sugya. He is the man, the booby trap Sugya is his Sugya. He fleshed out the Sugya like nobody else. But he got some major flack. There's a Rabbi Frankel, Reb Sinai Meir Frankel in Eretz Yisrael, who when he originally heard of Reb Yitzchak's psak, He heard about it from a bocher by a wedding, so he writes back to R Zilberstein that I heard that you believe that you're allowed to poison the sandwich. And fakir, it's a mitzvah to poison the sandwich. It's a mitzvah to poison the sandwich. And he says, I don't get it. And he had a few shilas. Number one, this Gemara is talking about if somebody wants to violate theft, let him be over other averis. It's not my business to prevent him. Usually Yidden are arevim, Kol Yisrael arevim. We're responsible for each other. There's a mitzvah of to rebuke your friend. Ordinarily, every Yid, it is your business that someone else doesn't sin. As the Musa Sfarim give the mashal, the old mashal, right? Imagine you're on the cruise ship and there's thousands of people there, and one person in his cabin starts to drill a hole. She starts banging on his door. What are you doing? He said, what do you want? It's my cabin. I can do what I want. She tell him, yeah, it's your cabin, but it's one ship. And if you go down, we're all going down. All of the Yidden are responsible for each other. We're one team working together. And if one guy's lacking, we're all lacking. Like it says that the Arizal would say, Shamnu, Bagadnu, did he do those sins? The Yidden are one body. And if part of the body is hurting, the whole body is incomplete. We're all responsible. That's how it is ordinarily. But if somebody is currently willingly doing a sin, and at that very moment will do another, you have no, all bets are off. You don't have to stop him. So says Reb Frankel, that just means let him wallow in more averis. But who said you could harm him physically? Who said you could harm him physically? In the Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says you're allowed to poison those fruits. Let the guy who's stealing die. I didn't say that. What's the raya? What's the raya? And by the way, you could ask a few shilas from here. Number one, it's talking about letting the guy wallow in his aveir. It's not about killing the guy. Because there's a chiyav misa for Arlah. Yes. B'dei shamayim, the hands of heaven. In the hands of heaven. But that's number one. Number two, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, is he telling you this is what you should do or what you could do? Is he saying you could leave the fruits unmarked or you should leave the fruits unmarked? That's another shaila. The third shaila is when Shimon Gamliel is talking about being passive. You don't have to mark those fruits as forbidden fruits, but to actively put poison in the sandwich with the plan the guy's going to eat it? Who said you can actively do that? So off the bat, there are three chilukim you could make between this case and the case of the sandwich. But Rab Frankel mainly was bothered by the first. This Gemara is saying that he wants to sin, let him wallow in sin. But who said you can physically hurt him? And another shaila, he said, this guy's a thief. The sandwich, the guy's a thief. You want him to die? Since when does a thief deserve a death penalty? Since when is there a punishment of death for theft? It's not comparable. It's incomparable. It's not commensurate. The punishment and the crime are not commensurate. And his third shaila is a big shaila as well. You want to cause the death of this sandwich stealer? And you want to say, I didn't kill him, he killed himself by eating the sandwich. You're causing it by lacing the sandwich with poison. When it comes to groma, causing death, the Rambam writes very frightening descriptions. If someone hires a hitman, where they tie somebody up and it causes the person's death, all of these, it's a loophole. Bezdin won't kill you. The regular rule of killing a murderer does not apply if the murderer killed through grama. But the Rambam says if you cause the death of someone, God views you as a murderer. Towards heaven, you're a murderer and you'll be dealt with as such. So Frankel says you're encouraging people to cause the death of thieves. Grama, causing the death of people. So those were some of the issues Rabbi Frankel had. And Rabbi Zilberstein wrote a letter back. And We're going to go on a journey. Okay? L'chaim, l'chaim. Right. As far as the Rambam Groma, the Rambam's told me if you cause the death of someone, you tie someone up and they die from hunger.
Frankel?
He's a Rav in Eretz Yisrael. He was the Talmud of the Baruch Shimon Schneerson, who was a cousin of the Rebbe, a great Talmud Chacham. He's a big Baal Nigla, but he's a cousin of the Rebbe. Yeah, this guy's Chassidic roots, yeah. Anyhow, so as far as the Rambam of killing through Groma, so there you could say simple, listen, if you tie someone up, they die of hunger. Someone's in a pit and you remove the ladder so they can't come out, and if you hire a hitman, this and that, you are, actively causing the death of somebody. Here, why am I actively causing the person's death? He shouldn't be eating my sandwich. How does me poisoning my sandwich translate to killing someone? The guy has no business eating the sandwich. You can't link the two. R Yechiel of Zilberstein, but you can't link the two. Me poisoning the sandwich does not translate to his death. He created the link. He was the groma, or more than the groma. He actually ate the poison, unaware, so he killed himself b'shoigig. What? That's if a ganav enters your home, can you kill him? Only if you're worried for self-defense. If you're worried he's going to kill you. If you're worried he's going to kill you, you kill him first. But the Chumash says if it's clear that he's not coming to harm, he's only coming for money, you can't kill him. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. So as far as that Rambam, Zilberstein says, Enkesher, it's a different... here, you could say that I caused his death because had I not put the poison in the thing, the guy wouldn't have died. That's true. But that doesn't categorize me as a groma. The classical groma is if I actively cause a person's death. He brought about his own demise. He shouldn't be eating my sandwich. Befratet is doing it to harass me. He's stealing, he's harassing me. That's not called a groma. As far as the question that it's not commensurate, he's stealing, he gets a death penalty for stealing? What do we do with that question? He's getting a death penalty for stealing? So again, I'm not giving him a death penalty. He's giving it to himself. So the truth is, over here, there's 2 points. Usually when the things have to be commensurate, if someone does a crime and afterwards they're punished, certain averis carry malchus, certain death penalty, and according to the severity of the crime is the punishment. Yeah, so when you're punishing someone for a crime already committed, the punishment has to be commensurate to the crime. But if someone's in the middle of the crime, using force to hinder them and stop them does not have to be commensurate. There is a halacha we've discussed about in the past. If someone does not wish to do a mitzvah saseh, Bezdin can be koifin, they can hit him, machinoisoi, they can hit him ad shetetzei nafshe, until his soul leaves him. The Gemara says, and there's a well-known debate between the Rambam and the Rabbeinu Yoina. The Rambam writes in his Sefer HaMitzvahs that literally till the guy, the Rambam says if it's sukkah and the guy doesn't want to eat in the sukkah, he's busy eating out of the sukkah, we beat him until one of 3 things happen. Either he eats in the sukkah, or sukkah ends, or he dies. Rabbeinu Yoina says, no, you don't kill him. Ad shetetzei nafshe means till, you beat him, he loses consciousness, you don't kill him. But according to both of them, once someone violated mitzvah saseh, Bezdin B'chlal doesn't administer any punishment. There's no legislated punishment in the Torah for someone who's mavatal a mitzvah saseh. Even a loy saseh, you get malchus, you don't kill a guy. So how could Bezdin try and coerce the man to do the mitzvah and use such brutal force till he dies? The answer is it doesn't have to be commensurate because it's not a punishment. While the person's in the middle of the crime and force needs to be used to get him on the right track, whatever force is necessary. You start small, you give him a little nudge. He doesn't obey, he doesn't abide, you go a little more, you keep upping the ante. He ends up dying, it's just a mitzvah saseh. When the person's in the middle of the crime, it doesn't have to be commensurate, which is a big yesod. In fact, so concerning which, Join me in number 7. This is Arlah in Shulchan Aruch in Choshen Mishpat towards the end. Shnayim shechavlu ze baze. 2 people that are beating each other up. Im chaval ha'echad b'chaveira yosem ima shechaval boy. Yankel gives Beryl a punch in the jaw. And Beryl responds with an uppercut to face, completely dislocates the other guy's, cheekbone. So whatever Beryl did more than Yankel did to him, he has to pay that damage. Humashalom, he has to pay b'mois, he has to pay the addition nezek shalom. So you have to evaluate how much each person did to the other. And the guy that did more didn't have permission to do more. But says the Shulchan Aruch, v'dafka, this only applies if she's chilu shneim ke'echad, if the brawl, if it started simultaneously, they were both at each other's necks simultaneously, they both jumped on each other. Or after shechavel b'chaveira, after Yankel hit Beryl, and then that fight ended. Yankel hits Beryl, and then later on in the day, Beryl's waiting in ambush, and he pounces upon Yankel. Chazer gamhu miyad. Now, the word miyad probably shouldn't be here. The smeh is a whole arichis about how to work this out. But if the response was not in midst of the fight, then again, you would work out, you would measure the 2 blows that were given, and whichever one was more intense has to pay the extra. But what if Yankel's thumb starts punching Beryl, and Beryl punches back? Self-defense. That's a different story. Im hischil ha'echad, if one guy started and the other guy naturally fights back, he's potter. Of course, the second guy's potter. Sheyesh lo reshus l'sheni lachbo, he's allowed to hit back k'dei lahas to protect himself. Right? So then if Yankel hits Beryl and Beryl immediately hits back, and Beryl hits Yankel harder than Yankel hit him, too bad for Yankel. Too bad for Yankel. Now skip the lines of the Ramah, go 3 lines later. Umiyu says of Yosef Kaira, hang on a second. You have to work something out. If Yankel punches Beryl, it doesn't mean Beryl can turn Yankel into a pulp. Beryl's going to say, the fight started, now's my chance. Right? Then I'll sever his arms and legs. Says the Shulchan, no. Yeah, the Dayanim will have to estimate and work out if Beryl could have responded, he wants to hit Yankel harder than Yankel hit him, fine, a little bit harder. But that would have been enough, suffice for the quarrel to end. But Beryl took advantage and turned Yankel into a pulp, chayiv, Beryl will still be chayiv. So it's a delicate halacha. If it's in midst of the fight, the second guy is a victim, he can punch back, and he can punch back harder than the first guy. But, so it doesn't have to be commensurate, you can punch back harder. But it has to be warranted. It has to be warranted. You can't use the opportunity to turn the guy, into a... You can't paralyze him, for life. You can't shoot. No gun? I don't know. No, if he's a huge guy who's punching you and you're worried for your life, you take out a gun and you shoot. Depends on the guy's size. It depends. If there's a lot of people around, the guy's probably not going to kill you, but still. The guy may hit you so hard, he may not intend to kill you, but still kill you. You have to... And when it comes to self-defense, so we started speaking about in the Zal, there's certain leniencies. You don't have to warn the reverse, you don't have to warn the guy. According to many, you don't have to aim for his arm and leg and go straight for the kill. But so this is a case where you're not punishing the guy after the fact. Beryl's trying to stop Yankel in the middle of the story. So it doesn't have to be commensurate. You can go beyond what Yankel did to you. Now you can't go all the way. That's logical. Fine. So that's an important halacha. This is Shulchan Aruch in the Choshen Mishpat. There's a Gemara in number 8, another Gemara in Baba Kama. Rava says, what if somebody enters your chutzner, shaloi b'rshus, without permission? Somebody enters your backyard. Now, if it's talking about that this guy is a potential murderer, then you're allowed to kill him. But this is talking, no. The guy's not going to kill you. He's trespassing, that's it. The hizik, and he damaged the balabayas. The guy's walking in your gardens late at night. He doesn't realize the owner's there, and he accidentally bumps into the owner, and the owner, I don't know, falls down and hits his head on the concrete right in his hospital. So the intruder has to pay. Or if Balabai is huzik boy, even more than that, the intruder enters your backyard, he's stationary. The Balabai is walking in the backyard and he trips over the intruder. Chayiv, the intruder's still chayiv, both cases. What about his zikoy bal? What if the balbayis hurts him? Potter, the balbayis is potter. But says Rav Papa, not so fast. Loy amron ela deloy havayadabe. This halacha only applies if the owner did not. It was dark. It's in your backyard. It's dark, right? You can't see. You didn't know the guy was there. But if the owner knows the guy is there and he hits him, balabayis chayiv. The balabayis is chayiv. Why? Because the victim will tell him, "You have permission to throw me out of the house. You don't have permission to hurt me." So this is an important halach, important piece of Gemara. If someone's has trespassed is in your house, is in your garden, you know the guy means no harm. You know the guy means no harm. It's pretty clear the guy means no harm. Then you have reshus to pick him up and throw him out of the house. You don't have permission to hurt him. And if you hurt him, Rav Papa holds you chayiv to pay for damages. Even though you're not retaliating, it's in the midst, the guy's in the midst of his crime, he's in the midst of the trespassing. Doesn't matter. Unnecessary force is not warranted. Unnecessary force is not warranted. In fact, it's even though the guy trespassed, what?
Was trespassing or stealing?
No, here the guy just trespassed. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know. You know that he's not going to harm you. It could be he's going to steal. Whatever it is, you want to throw him out of the house. He's invading your privacy. He's not
in the estimate stealing.
Maybe he is. You don't know what the guy's doing there. Yeah, no, the guy came in. Again, we're talking about it's clear he doesn't mean you harm. So he's an opportunist. What's he doing there? You say, well, he just got lost. Very likely he's there to walk out with something, right? He's borrowing, long-term borrowing. You have the shus to pick him up and throw him out of the house. Yeah, but you can't harm him.
Yeah, but you're not discouraging him from coming back. That's the problem.
Okay, hold on. So maybe for that you'll tell him about booby traps. So we're going to get more into booby traps in a moment.
I mean, you got to punch him at least once to keep him from coming back. Otherwise, he knows he can steal again, and the worst that can happen is
that's a good question. So therefore, you warn him. Next time you come back, there will be a dog here that will tear you to pieces. Now the Gemara says you can't have a dog. Okay, so let's see. Hope he doesn't know the Gemara. So there's an important halacha that even in the midst of the person's crime, you're allowed to use whatever force is necessary, even if it's not commensurate. Right? The guy just walked into your house and you're picking up and throwing him out. He just happened to walk in, you pick him up and throw him out. It's not commensurate, but it's warranted. Very important distinction. And we're actually learning in Hamaniach, the Bochum are learning in Girsa.
So what's the difference between that and shooting
Hold on.
in the face? If you can do whatever action.
No, you can't. Have to be warranted. You can't harm, but you're allowed to do what's just like in number 7. You're allowed to punch him. If he punches you, you punch him back with a bigger punch. In order, the guy should be afraid and leave. It's not commensurate. He did A and you're doing B, right? It's like those the two guys, Yankel and Beryl, come to the Rav. Yankel tells Beryl punched me. So the Rav tells Yankel, okay, so punch him back. So he punches Beryl back. But Yankel tells him it's not fair. He punched me for no reason. My punch to him, because he deserved it. He punched me for naught, so we're not really even. What he did to me is what I did to him. So Rav, I have a great idea. We're going to do a round 2. You punch him first, and then he'll punch you as retaliation, and then you're even, Stephen. So you're allowed to punch him harder than he punched you in order the guy should get the message. But you can't completely paralyze him for life, like we saw in number 7. So again, you're allowed to go above what's commensurate, but you can't kill him. So the question is, by the case of the sandwich, right? So Frankel asked, R Zilberstein, poisoning the sandwich, the guy's a thief. The guy's a thief and now he's getting a death penalty. It's not commensurate. So could we answer, well, it's not a punishment for the theft. It's while he's doing the crime. Just like by a mitzvah's essay, you can squeeze the guy until he dies. So it doesn't have to be commensurate. But the shaila is, but we see from number 7, number 8, it has to be warranted. It has to be warranted. You could answer that, yeah, the guy stole and is getting a more severe punishment than a thief usually gets. It doesn't have to be commensurate. But maybe killing him would be, that's not warranted. Maybe it's not warranted. So what you're going to have to answer is, I'm not doing it to him. He did it to himself. Who asked him to eat the sandwich? The cases in 7 and 8 is if I don't just throw the guy out of my house, I break his leg while I do it. Or number 7, if he punched me and I dislocate all of his limbs. I'm doing that to him. That you can't do because it's not warranted. But over here by the sandwich, it's not warranted. I'm not doing it. You can't point any fingers to me. Why is he stealing my sandwich? So if you go down that path, you completely remove the question. So the third question and the second question of Rabbi Frankel are answered. The Rambam about Groma, that's when you cause it. Here he's doing it to himself. The question is not commensurate. Again, he's doing it to himself. But Rabbi Frankel, his first question was big. The Gemara number 4 was, if someone wants to steal your goods, let him violate more Averis. You don't have to tell him it's Arlah. You don't have to tell him it's Kerem Revoy. But how does R Zilberstein learn that you're allowed to push or kill the guy? That was one question. And we pointed out there's a couple other issues with the Gemara. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in number 4 just said, he said that you don't have to put up a sign, these are Arlah fruit. But does it mean there's a mitzvah to poison the sandwich, right? Rabbi Zilberstein said not only the students allowed to poison, a mitzvah to poison. Mitzvah, how does he see that from the Gemara? So concerning that, Rabbi Zilberstein says, you got to look in the Meiri. The Meiri on the Gemara in Baba Kama says, if somebody wants to steal, mutav, it's better, it's wanted. Let him wallow in sin. Let him wallow in sin. So the Meiri Taka says, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel wasn't just giving you an option that you don't have to mark. No, it's better, Azoy. Let the guy wallow in sin. We care for other people. So Taka, the Chavis Yor, the great Goy and the Chavis Yor of Yor Chaim Bachrach, he has a letter where he says his whole Gemara in Baba Kama is so difficult that even if a guy's a thief, what happened to the fact that Yidden are responsible for each other and we try and minimize how much a person sins, right? Like the Rambam said, if you eat treif, you can't make a bracha. And the Ravid said, what? The guy's eating treif, but you want him to sin again and not make a bracha? At least let him make a bracha. What do you see from that Ravid? While the guy's eating treif, he has to make a bracha on the food. He should eat without a bracha too. When he eats a little bit of garlic, eat more garlic, so your breath should smell more. So based on that Ravid, what would the Ravid say about over here? The guy's stealing, but he should eat Arlah too? The same way the Ravid says he's eating treif, it's a problem, but at least make a bracha. He's stealing, it's a problem, but at least don't allow him to eat the Arlah. Maybe the guy doesn't eat Arlah. Maybe theft he's not so careful about, but Arlah he doesn't want to eat, so help him not eat it. Right? It's like the guy in the dorm, that in their fridge they had every time they would have yogurts over there, right? He would come in the morning, all the yogurts were eaten. So he put signs on the yogurts. If you eat it, it's loy signal, you can't steal, loy sigzol, you're stealing, it's private property, you can't do it. It never helped. Till one day he wrote that it's not kosher. No one ate it. No one ate it. No one ate it. Theft, it's like we once had a shir about Avram Avinu's camels, and we discussed there the debate, the Chasam Sofer, the B'cholim Wasserman, if stolen goods is be'etzem asur or it's not. It's really mutter food, it just happens to be, right now it's owned by somebody else. But in essence, it's mutter food. Or do I say in essence, it's asur food? The point is, just because this guy is willing to steal doesn't mean he habitually, ordinarily eats Arlah. So let's do him a favor and say that it's Arlah. You know what might happen? Says the Chavis Yor. He won't eat Arlah, he won't steal it, so you'll save him from both Averis. And the Chavis Yor writes, I don't understand this. If only someone could come and explain to me the meaning behind this halacha, number 4. So we'll get back to that. There is an answer. Rabbi Zilberstein has an answer to that. The point is, the Meiri writes, mutav. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is not just saying it's okay, it's better not to help the guy, let the guy wallow in sin. So that answers that question. There was another issue we asked from that Gemara, that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is saying you could be passive. You don't have to mark the Arlah and the Kerem Revoy. You could be passive. But who said that means you could actively poison a person's sandwich? So if you look at number 5, there's a Yerushalmi. In number 5, there's Yerushalmi Masechta Peah. Sorry, in Masechta D'mai. In Masechta D'mai, number 5, says Yerushalmi, there's a Mishnah, Hanoisen Lepundikis. This is a great story. You go to a hotel, and the hotel is run by a woman, and you're carrying lots of produce, and you want her to watch it, over Shabbos while you're there, whatever. So Ma'aser Eshehu Noisen La, the produce you give her, you have to take Meiser from. Before Meiser is taken, the tithes are taken, it's called Tevel. It's biblically prohibited to eat Tevel. You have to fix it, you have to rectify the produce by taking the Meiser. You come Sunday to get it back, and she gives you lots of produce. You don't know that that's what you gave her. She could have traded it, because maybe your fruit was better than the ones that she had. So you have to take Meiser again from what she gives you. The Eshehu Noito you take from her, you have to take Meiser again. Because she's Chashud al-Chalaf, they exchange. They're like a bank. The money you give them, that's not the money you get back the next day. They took your money. Now it's different money. So Rabbi Yossi says, no. What you give her, you don't have to take Meiser. She's going to exchange it and use your fruits. Let her eat the Tevel. Let her eat the Tevel. We are not responsible for swindlers. The stuff you give her, let it stay Tevel. Let it remain Tevel. She might eat it. Good. Let her eat it. So therefore, you're only ma'aser what you take from her. Because that you don't know if it's what you gave her or it's something else. So that you have to take ma'aser, but not what you give her. So the Gemara, this is the Yerushalmi in Demai, says, this sounds to be the same as Rabbi Zilberstein, number 4. You want to steal my fruits? I'm not going to tell you it's Arlah. Eat it. Wallow in the Arlah. And just like over here, you'll eat the Tevel. So the Yerushalmi says, Rabbi Yossi over here, Rabbi Shimon number 4, Amr Davarech, saying the same thing. Just like Rabbi Yossi says, we're not responsible to help the swindlers. You want to steal, you'll suffer. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said the same thing. We're not responsible for swindlers. So Yerushalmi says, no. The two cases are not identical. They're not identical. Mistabrid makes sense. Rabbi Yossi Taka says we don't care about the swindlers. He would agree to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel number 4 that if the guy comes in your field, don't even let him know that it's Arlah. He wants to steal, let him eat the Arlah. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel won't agree with Rabbi Yossi. Why? Look in the second last line of number 5. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel will not agree to Rabbi Yossi. Why? Because a chaver, a Talmud Chacham, you can't give food to somebody else if it's treif or tevel. In the case of Shimon Gamliel, you have a field. Someone's coming to your field, you don't have to go out of your way to put signs, Arlah and Nitravoy. Okay, let the guy do the Avera. But here you're giving the woman the fruits. As a Talmud Chacham, you can't give something which is not kosher to eat without it being clear, right? Because there's no sign the fruits are tevel. You can't do that. So the Vilna Gaon learns, and so the Carbonade and others learn what's the pshat of the Yerushalmi. The difference is since you're giving it or you're doing an action. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel only allowed to let someone wallow in sin if you're not doing an action. You don't have to go to say it's Arlah Kilakem to protect the guy. It's his business. But if you're getting actively involved, then you can't mess somebody over. So if that's the case, the Vilna Gaon and the Carbonade and others may not allow you to poison the sandwich because you're actively doing something. So Zilberstein says it could be the Vilna Gaon wouldn't allow. To me, there seems a major difference between, by the Vilna Gaon's case, you're giving it to her. You're giving it to her. She shouldn't eat it. It's stealing. So it's really off limits to her because it's not hers. But practically, you've handed it to her. By the case of the sandwich, you didn't give the guy the sandwich. It's in your backpack. The guy is going into your reshus. I think Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would not consider you active there. So l'chayra, that question wouldn't be an issue either. Which means Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Yossi for sure holds you're actively allowed. Rabbi Yossi for sure says poison the sandwich. You can even give it to the woman. You want to be a thief, you'll suffer. But I think Rabbi Shimon Gamliel may agree there as well. It's only in the case by the woman when you're giving it to her, that's already too much. But the sandwich, which he's the guy who's coming to your backpack to take the sandwich, I think Mishmuli will allow. So as far as the question of who said it's a good thing to let the guy wallow, the Meiri says mutav. As far as, well, maybe it's only passive, who said you could be active? Well, we just discussed, I think active would be okay too. But the big issue is, this whole sugi is talking about letting someone wallow in sin. It doesn't mean you can kill the person. You want to steal, you'll end up eating tevel, you'll end up eating arlah. But you want to steal, you'll end up eating poison? Who said you could poison the sandwich? This was Reb Frankel's big taina. So Reb Zilberstein responds, don't you know a Rashi in Parshas Kiseitze? If somebody converts from the countries of Edom, of Esav, or Mitzrayim, so if they convert, the conversion takes effect, but for the first 2 generations, they can only marry other Yidden from the outskirts, other Gerim, etc. They can't marry into the fold until generation number 3. Why? Because both those nations, they harassed us. Esav came with a sword in Parshas Chukas, and Mitzrayim, we suffered in Egypt big time. But 3rd generation is kosher. Amnon and Moav, the men that convert, even 20 generations later. If you know for sure, so they're Jewish, but they can only marry other people on the fringe. Can marry into the fold. The women are mutter right away, but the men are also forever. So Rashi quotes from Chazal, why are Amnon and Moav worse off? What did they do to us? The daughters of Moav caused us to sin. The Mitzrayim tried to kill us. Says Rashi the famous words. It's worse to cause someone to sin than to kill them. If you kill someone, you strip them from this world. You cause someone to sin, you strip them, they suffer in this, and primarily you affect Olam Haba. And therefore, Amnon or Moav, that caused us to sin, the men are forever prohibited. The Mitzrayim, the Edomim from Esav, they wanted to physically harm us, 3 generations. The Medrash Tanchuma says it also about Midian. Harassed the Midyanim. Because the Midyanim caused us to sin. And the worst thing is if someone causes somebody to sin. Gadol hamachti yosim min hargai. It's worse to cause someone to sin than to kill them. So says R Yechiel of Zilberstein, if you're allowed to cause the thief to sin by eating more treifa food, the Arlah and the Kilei HaKerem, if you're allowed to cause him to sin, for sure you're allowed to kill him, because it's worse to be machti. Causing him to sin is worse. Corrupting the soul is worse. And if you're able to, then you're allowed to corrupt the body. It seems to be black and white. To which Rabbi Frankel says, he says an important idea. Gadol hamachti yosim in a hargai, the fact that causing them to sin is worse is in the eyes of God. Towards Shamayim, in the eyes of heaven, it's worse if you corrupt someone's soul than if you corrupt their body. And so to the Eibishter, Amnon and Moav are rejected forever. But as far as the courts down here, physical life reigns supreme. Just like you could violate almost all mitzvahs for the sake of your life, physical life reigns supreme. As far as Bezdin down here, Bezdin would quicker say, you know what, let the guy sin, than to say to terminate his physical life. That's the claim of Rabbi Frankel. Rabbi Zilberstein says no. A very interesting debate. This is a current debate. It's a current debate. That Maimar Chazal that Rashi says, in the Medrash Tanchuma, these things, is that it's true, but is it only true in the eyes of heaven or it's true on the ground? Is it true down here? Fascinating debate. But either way, Rabbi Zilberstein has kind of gotten out of most all the questions we've said so far, he's wiggled out of. Lifnei Iver. So first of all, that's okay. Putting poison in my sandwich when you shouldn't be eating is not Lifnei Iver. It's not. You shouldn't be eating the sandwich. The guy shouldn't be eating it. The guy shouldn't be eating it. I'm not. It's already there. I'm being passive. The Eibush hat gemacht Arlah. I planted it. I'm not. And when the person's in the middle of the Aveira, you know, at least while the person is stealing, Arvus is off. once, maybe the thief, between his thefts, you should go be makar of him and do mitzvahs with him. While he's doing the Aveira, it's almost like that protection's off. That you put tefillin on him while he's doing the Aveira, I don't know. Maybe while there's an Aveira, Arvus is off. Which is an interesting thing to explore. Yeah, quickly, yeah.
You're actually killing someone here. What's going to end up happening?
He's killing himself.
But you know what's going to happen. You're putting a blind stone.
He's doing it to himself. That what? In Hayom Yom, but in Shulchan Aruch. In Chassidus, you know, in the soul of the law.
Saving the standards from doing more sins because
it's okay. The guy's going to do more sins. Chaldis Rasha, better knock him off now before he does. Who knows where he's going to go next? So the truth is that. So, like I said, Rabbi Frankel challenged Rabbi Zilberstein. Rabbi Zilberstein then wrote a letter where he said that ever since this got out, ever since the world got wind of my psak, I've received tens and tens of letters of people who just want to rip up my psak. They say how it's completely wrong and it's false and how can you say such a thing? So, and people said the rayas you brought are not foolproof rayas. He quoted some of the things that we saw. He quoted number 10, because in response to the shaila that haliteo l'rasha means the guy wants to sin, let him sin again. Who said you could hurt him physically? He said the story in number 10, Rabbi Yehoshua took the ladder away. Rabbi Yehoshua took the ladder away and the guy almost died. The guy almost died. Setting up a booby trap is even for physical harm. It's a clear Masechta Derech Eretz. You're allowed to set up a booby trap, even for physical harm. The person wants to come, it's come at your own risk. So he was challenged by many. So he said, okay. He says, you know what I think the main explanation is? He says, who said that you're allowed to, I don't know, make the bed in your home? Who said you're allowed to open up your fridge? Who said you're allowed to turn on the shower? Do you need sources to explain why you're allowed to do things in your home? It's your home, you could do what you want. He says, so to me, it's obvious. In my sandwich, I could do what I want. It's my sandwich, I could do what I want. I could put whatever I want in my sandwich. I could put Carolina Reaper peppers, so now he has an even stronger one, which could be poison. Whatever I want. I could put inedible foods. It's my food. No one has any business coming there and eating it. And hold on, he said the following thing. No, this is great. He says, imagine you have a collection of whiskey bottles, a mashka, okay? And it happens to be that in one of your mashka bottles you keep kerosene because you didn't have any other bottle. You heard that a ganav down the road is coming after your whiskey. He's coming after your whiskey. Do you have to go quickly to your bar, take the bottle which has the kerosene, and pour it out? Because or else the mashka guy is going to come, the ganav is going to come and drink your mashka and die. You're going to leave it there, knowing this guy's coming to your house to steal mashka? You're causing his death. So Rabbi Zilberstein says, are you telling me that I would have to go and pour out that kerosene, that poison, so the ganav doesn't get hurt? Impossible. Impossible. Doesn't make sense. So he says, maybe you'll say, because it's already there. But let's say I know the ganav is coming from my mashka. Can I fill up one of the bottles with poison? He says, yeah. Why? He says, you're actively doing it, having in mind. He says, Rabbi Yehoshua actively moved the ladder for this guy to fall. He says more than that. Are you allowed to put poison in mashka bottles? Is there an Issa Deraisa to put poison in mashka bottles? The only thing it might run into is the beginning of Ashir, of not having dangerous things in your home. But otherwise, there's no particular... She says, the action is mutter. You're allowed to... Like I was allowed to do it before I heard there's a ganav coming. So the action's mutter. So what do you want to prohibit? You want to prohibit it for me because of my thought. He says, we don't follow a person's machshava. If the mice is okay, your machshava won't taint it. And he quotes our shir, so to speak. We had a shir a little while ago. falling off your chair with the Marit Al-Ghazi and the Levush, where we discussed a famous Gemara in Menachos. A kid fell into the water, and there's a Gid who happens to be going fishing. He doesn't know about the kid. He throws in a net, he picks up his net, he has a tuna, he has a salmon, he has all these delicious fish, and there's a child there that he saved. Gewaldig. So the action was an action of, right? It's one action of throwing the net. The action was an action of saving your kid's life. And it comes with some tuna on the side. But he didn't know that. He planned to go fishing, and he went fishing. He wanted to fish on Shabbos and say there's one of the malachas. And he did. The fact that the action happened to save a kid's life, so the action now became permitted. What happens now? So it's a debate, Rabba and Rava. One? Because one action of the net. To save the kid, he would have had to do the same thing anyhow.
So could you eat the fish now?
Okay, did a malach could be also for him, and there's dinim, there's machloek, that would go into all those things. So when a malacha was done to something on Shabbos, if you could eat it. So, or the truth, well, right here might be different because the mice itself could be okay. Rabba says he's off the hook. His mice was an act of saving a kid's life. Rava says he's chayiv because of his machshava. We paskin like Rabba. We follow the mice. Your thought is doesn't matter. The mice was a good action. So during that shir that we had, we showed not so fast. If somebody thought they were eating chazer, if you thought this piece of meat was pork, and you eat it, geschmack, then you find out it happened to be kosher meat from the kitchen. You still need a kapara. If someone has in mind to eat treif and happened to have something mutter, you need kapara. Or the case if a woman took a vow to be a nazir, unbeknownst to her husband annulled the vow, she thinks the vow is on, and she violates the vow thinking it's a problem. She needs a kapara even though in reality nothing was wrong. And we explained that what's the difference? Because if someone has a thought to do something wrong, and they cash in on the thought, the Brisker Rav says that that the thought defines the action. It's almost like you did it. It's not only you wanted to do, you acted upon it thinking you were doing it. While you were eating it, you thought it was treif. It's as if you were doing the activity. It somewhat defines the action. So says R Zilberstein, then and only then do you need a kapara. But if the action was a mitzvah saving a kid's life, so then the action is a mitzvah action. It won't be negatively defined by your machshava, and so too over here by the mashke. Since putting poison in a mashke bottle is in and of itself completely kosher, the thought you have that for the ganav to come and get it and be poisoned by it won't define your action, because your action is completely pure. Masha'enkin, by eating the treif, the action where you thought it was treif, your action of eating it was cashing in on your thought. The action becomes defined by your thought. No, he feels nishtase. He feels here the action is completely mutter. You know it's mutter. Here it's different. You know what you're doing. What am I doing? I'm filling up my bottle with kerosene. That's a mutter action. No, by the treif, you think that the action is also deraisa. It's different, right? You think that the treif, while you're eating, you think it's pork. It's different. Anyhow, so that was very interesting. Where he goes, but that just proves that you're not chai for your machshava. It doesn't prove you're allowed to have it. It's mutter to have criminal thoughts. But he says, nonetheless, he believes on your sandwich you could do what you want. That person should not come. He shouldn't. He is going to a place he shouldn't be. He comes at his own risk. Now, hold on, we're almost at the clincher. I'll take questions and then we'll get to the clincher. Yeah, quickly, yes.
It would be different if it's like you're making something actively poisonous versus something that has a use otherwise. Like kerosene has a use in whatever, your fireplace or whatever, but poison is just there to harm you.
No, I need the sandwich for the mice in the house.
It's called unclean
Or as a
hands.
good.
Person coming that has unclean hands.
So hold on. So here's the thing. Turn the page. Number 11. A very important shtickle Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara says a story. Rab Meir, Rab Yehuda, Rab Yossi, Havaka, Ozli, Be'urcha, they were going on their way. 3 big Tanoim. And Rab Meir was Medayik Bishma. Rab Meir was particular when he hears someone's name, he say, oh, I know you. Like, oh, what's your name? Oh, your Baba, your Zaydu, your second cousin. Rab Meir was Medayik in what the name actually is. Rab Yehuda, Rab Yossi were not Medayik in the names. They reached a certain place and they wanted to stay the night. They wanted to stay over the night. And they were given lodgings. So Amnon, they asked the host, Mashmecha, what's your name? He said, Kidar. Rab Meir says, oh, this guy's a Russia. Because it says in Parshas Hazinu, Kidar tapuches hema. Kidar, because they're a backwards generation. But he didn't say anything to his friends. So Rabbi Yehud and Rabbi Yossi, they gave their purses of money to the innkeeper. Rabbi Meir did not give him his purse. Rabbi Meir went to outside there was a garden, and he buried it next to the cave of this guy's father. Rabbi Meir was sure this guy isn't going to dig up his father over Shabbos. It's a safe place to put the money. You know what happened Friday night? The innkeeper has a dream. His father comes. You know what his father tells him? There's a sack of gold coins by my head. Tosh Shokil, come take kissa. There's a kiss, there's a wallet which is by my head. Dahu garbage by my head. So the next morning, Kidder wakes up and he goes downstairs for breakfast and he sees the rabbis are there. So he tells them, I had a funny dream. My father says there's a wallet buried next to his head. So they told him, Friday night dreams mean nothing. Friday night dreams don't mean anything. What did Rab Meir do? Rab Meir went, he spent the whole Shabbos Rab Meir went Venatra, he guarded his purse the entire day. And then after Shabbos he brought it back. L'mocher, after Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi went to the innkeeper and they told him, Havlon Kisan, give us our wallet. He said, what wallet? You never gave me anything. Guy was a real scoundrel. So what were they going to do? So Rabbi Meir told them, why weren't you medayik in the guy's name? So they told him, why didn't you tell us there was a problem? Rabbi Meir said, I don't know there's for sure a problem. It's a chshash, but a chzuki mi amri, I couldn't tell the for sure a problem, just a concern. So Mashchu, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, they schlepped the innkeeper. Va'ailu, they bring him to a chanus, they bring him to a tavern. Come, let's go have a drink. So while they're sitting with him, they notice that on his mustache, he has lentils were there. So they realize he must have had lentils with his for breakfast with his wife. So they went quickly back to this haunted hotel, and they gave the simon to the guy's wife. They said that your husband wants you to give us back the money, and the simon is that he had lentils for breakfast. And they took their wallets. So he came back and he realized what happened. He killed his wife. Kidder killed his wife. And this is what it means. Mayim Rishonim caused a person to eat pig, and Mayim Achronim killed a soul. The Mayim Achronim is this, because the guy didn't have Mayim Achronim, and wash his things. Because of that, he ended up killing his wife. What's the story of Mayim Rishonim? It's a story that there was a Jewish innkeeper who, when a Yid would come to his inn, he would give him kosher. And if a goy would come, he would give him tray for meat. How would the innkeeper know if someone was Jewish or a goy? Everyone had, they all used to cover their hair, this and that, or no one covered their hair. He would see if the guy would wash for the bread. So there was a certain Yid that came in and wasn't careful, he was lax. He just said, give me the food. And he ate the bread without washing. So the innkeeper's like, this guy's a goy, he gave him pork. So the Gemara says, Mayim Rishonim can save you from pork, and Mayim Achronim can save you from murder. So Reb Zilberstein quotes this Gemara to teach you what? That when it comes to protecting your money, your possessions, you can do whatever's necessary. The perpetrators could be harmed. The woman was in on this. You see clearly. She had access to the wallets and she was in on this. Could be she was afraid of her husband, right? He was a murderer. That could be. But nonetheless, she's in on this. The Tanoim, says Reb Zilberstein, these Tanoim knew that what they did could create some major strife between the murderous innkeeper and his wife. But when it comes to protecting your possessions, all bets are off. You can do what's necessary. Even if it's not commensurate. We said, but here it's necessary. They needed to do something. This was a way to do it. I end up killing his wife. It's their problem. It's his problem. The murder's on his shoulders, not on theirs. The woman's blood is on the husband's shoulders. It's his responsibility. It's not theirs. They did what they needed to do to protect their property. The perpetrators suffer, so be it. So this would enhance his general position of booby trapping in your home. And you want to play with my stuff, you do it at your own risk. I do what's necessary. So this was a further proof to what he said. But hold on a second.
He's still alive.
Yeah, he's still around. Zilberstein. What? The problem is he bumped into the opinion of Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, okay, who was also, he's already a couple decades ago, in 95, passed away. But Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was asked, if you have someone that works for you, right? Anytime something goes missing in home, right? There's a cleaning lady, right? So you're worried someone took something from you. Are you allowed to embarrass someone if that's the cost at retrieving your possessions? Right? In order to find out where your possessions is, it's going to come at the cost of embarrassing someone. So if you embarrass an innocent person, so yeah, that's not warranted. But let's say you know who the perpetrator is, and you know they're going to be embarrassed. Are you allowed to do that because they have your possessions? So it's an interesting letter in the Sefer Mincha Shlomo. And in the beginning of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, number 12, he quotes the story from number 10 about Rabbi Yehoshua moving the ladder. Rabbi Yehoshua did whatever he had to do to save his possessions, even though it came at the cost of this guy falling. Worse than embarrassment, he's paralyzed, right? So look at number 12. Says Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, "V'shaper mistaver kedaite Tamar." It makes sense what you're saying. That from the story in number 10 in Derech Eretz, we learn from here that it's mutter or it's wanted, desired. Each person should protect their money and be careful from, those that you don't know how trustworthy they are. But you can't see from the story you're allowed to embarrass someone. Rabbi Yehoshua took away the ladder. He says like this, "It seems to me that Ganav was too hasty. He was excited in the middle of the night. He took everything from the upstairs and he ran to where the ladder should have been and he lost, he fell down. Why was he running so fast? If he wouldn't have been bold, kol kach, if he wouldn't have been in such a haste to levatzei gnevosai, to carry out his theft, he wouldn't have come to any embarrassment, and for sure he wouldn't have been hurt. He would have noticed, hey, where's the ladder? And he would have called out, Rabbi Yehoshua, Rabbi Yehoshua, what happened to the ladder? Right?
Let me see.
Right. He would have understood. He would have said, Rabbi Yehoshua maybe took it because, he would have been embarrassed. Because even if he wouldn't have fell, he would have realized Rabbi Yehoshua took away the ladder because he thinks I'm a thief. So doesn't that still prove you're allowed to embarrass someone to save your possessions? Says Shlomo Zalman, no. He would have thought, Rabbi Yehoshua needed the ladder for something else. But he wouldn't have been embarrassed. The fact that he broke his spine, it was because he was too hasty. He was too quick. In other words, what he seems to be saying is, when Rabbi Yehoshua took away the ladder, what was Rabbi Yehoshua thinking?
He's protecting himself.
Was Rabbi Yehoshua envisioning the guy would fall and break his spine? Or was he envisioning the guy would see there's no ladder and he'll pause the theft or he'll cease the theft? Rabbi Yehoshua, the no ladder is almost a sign, because Rabbi Yehoshua assumed the guy would notice, and the guy therefore wouldn't steal.
It's foreseeable that the guy would be hasty. Thieves sometimes
He believes
rush,
not like
go
that.
figure.
He believes, you can't learn from the story that you're allowed to cause chabol leganav. You can't set a trap for a ganav, he says, and for sure not to kill the guy. And for sure not to have him break his spine, which is basically Allah like he's dead.
Yehoshua should just put up a sign, "Stop thief, be a nice guy, don't steal my stuff." Why take the ladder and risk the chance that he might fall and break his head? Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach say, "Stop
Rabbi
thief,
Yehoshua
please be
l'chayra,
nice
right?
and don't
Rabbi
steal our
Yehoshua,
stuff."
if Rabbi Yehoshua did not want the guy to hurt himself, how could he have removed the ladder? He should have done something else. For example, Why did Rabbi Yehoshua leave a candle burning? I mean, he didn't have any candles. They were out of by the time, maybe they were. The time the guy got up, the candles were out. And if it's Friday night, you know the story? Rabbi Nachum of Chernobyl was staying at somebody's home, and Friday night, in the middle of the night, Rabbi Nachum is walking around the house and he's falling and he's hurting himself, he's stumbling around the house. He makes such a noise, the ruckus, the balabos gets up and the house is lit. And he can't Rabbi Nachum's not blind, like why is he walking around bumping into the walls? So he found out later that the candles had been lit but they'd all gone out. And someone had come and relit the candles in the middle of the night. Could have been a guy, but it was lit for the sake of the Yidden. Rabbi Nachum couldn't see it. He couldn't see it. He couldn't see the light. Also by Chol Vakum, Rabbi Nachum couldn't see the Chol Vakum, and he said, how do Chazal refer to Chol Vakum? Cholav that was milked by a guy, ve'ein yisrorei, and a Yid didn't see. But it means a Yid can't see. A Yid is not able to see. He wasn't able to see a person. Anyhow, maybe there were candles, they went out. Reb Shlomo Zalman is very sure to be sure, did not intend for the guy to suffer. So, if that's the case, the whole ride from number 10 falls off. That was the whole ride you can actively cause, you can make a booby trap for someone to physically get hurt. Because Rabbi Yehoshua did it. Rabbi Yehoshua was hoping the guy wouldn't get hurt. When you poison the sandwich, you're not putting a sign, you're hoping the guy's going to get... It's the opposite. Rabbi Yehoshua was hoping the guy would desist. By poisoning the sandwich, it's for you're assuming the guy would eat it and get hurt. So, Rabbi Zilberstein gives two answers. Rabbi Zilberstein gives two answers. In number 13, in his Chashukei Chemed, he says like this. He says he thinks it's different. He says, the Mincha Shloimeh says, you're allowed to do something that if the Ganav will be hasty, he'll hurt himself. But it's also to do something that will inevitably hurt the Ganav. Yeah, I guess true. But he says, Venira, he says, here by the poisonous sandwich, or he has another case. Reb Chaim Kanievsky was asked, there was a Ganav that was going into somebody's home. He was climbing in through the laundry line. He was climbing on the laundry line and then through the window. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky was asked, the owner of the apartment wanted to exchange the strings on the laundry line to weak strings. So if the guy tries to come in, he'll snap and he'll fall. Reb Chaim gave the okay, you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to set the booby trap. Now that makes sense why I won't run into number 1 on our sheet about having a danger in your home. Because nobody's supposed to be doing monkey bars, doing acrobatics trying to get into your house via the strings of the laundry line. But he says, he thinks Bechlal, even Shlomo Zalman, by the Sulam is different. Because you brought Rabbi Yehoshua invited the guest into his home. He gave him a room upstairs. And that comes with the ladder. If you remove the ladder, that would mamish be putting a danger in your home. The guy needs the ladder to come down in the morning, right? That's his way down. He sent him upstairs. He gave him the lodging upstairs. The ladder comes together with the lodging, right? The ladder comes together. You go out the window. The ladder comes together with the lodging. So that's why Shlomo Zalman was bothered there by the ladder. And so it must be if Rabbi Yehoshua moved it, he didn't foresee the guy would be so hasty and fall. But in our cases, where the Ganav is going into my backpack and taking the sandwich, or he's coming into my home through the window, through the laundry lines, you can do what you want. And if the Ganav comes in and gets hurt, it's his problem. V'hu adin b'chrich, the last line, so too by the sandwich. The krich is a sandwich. The Ganav is the one that was mazik himself. So in the Chashukei Chemed, he thinks Shlomo Zalman's case is different than here. But elsewhere, Reb Zilberstein says he has another answer. You see from Shlomo Zalman that Rabbi Yehoshua wouldn't be able to move the ladder unless you can be hopeful the guy would realize. In other words, it's like a warning. You can make a booby trap, but the person you have to be comfortable and confident that guy is somewhat forewarned. So if the guy would walk and see there's no ladder, he wouldn't go down. Says Rabbi Zilberstein, in this science class, this student had been harassed for a very long time. He had his wits' ends, and he was a master chemist. The guy eating a sandwich every day should have expected that sometime this guy is going to retaliate. The sandwich didn't have a sign, doesn't need. That's considered enough of a warning. So there's a guy, Rabbi Bleich, who wrote one contemporary halachic issues, English works on halacha, where he says, in his words, expecting somebody to test a sandwich for poison is a manifestation of paranoia. You can't expect it. It's not the same as the ladder you expect before someone goes downstairs to check that the stairs there.
This guy clearly never saw
But in number 13, Rabbi Zilberstein gave a different answer in the Chashukei Chemet. But according to what Rabbi Zilberstein says elsewhere, it taka boils down to the person being somewhat forewarned. He's giving two answers. In the other answer that he gives, which is not on the paper, there needs to be some confidence that the perpetrator, the assailant, the mazik, is somewhat forewarned, somewhat expectant, just like having a sign, beware of the dog, or having a sign, the fence is electric, is a... Yeah, well, that's for sure. He's giving two answers. No, he for sure. He doesn't want to, he wants to, he gives two answers of how to explain why this letter would fit with him. But there's another major point that he said, we'll end with this. Some of you are wondering, B'chlal, there's a mitzvah deraisa to keep Jews alive. Loi samud al dam reyecha. You see a Yid suffering, a Yid's drowning, you have to go and save him. Forget about causing someone's death. We have to go out of our way to make sure someone should not die. Someone seeking in quicksand, you jump in and save him. Unless you're going to put yourself into a sakana, and that goes into a debate if you're allowed to do it, if you should do it. But generally, you make machzich meshuga to save someone's life. If you don't, can't stand by thy brother's blood. The blood's going to be in your hand. So over here with the sandwich, yeah, the guy's annoying him, this and that. But causing someone to die, even though you're not really the grama, he's doing it to himself, like we spoke in the beginning. But what about, you have to do what you can to save people's lives. How could you be instrumental in his death? To this, Rabbi Zilberstein says, if you look in number 14, it's Arlah in Shulchan Aruch, in the end of Choshen Mishpat. An apikoros from the Jews, guy that serves idols, or he does averis lahachis just to anger God. Even if he eats treif or he wears shatnez, but he does it just to anger God, he's an apikoros. And those that deny Torah and prophecy, even though they're Jewish, it's a mitzvah lahargan. If you're able to kill them. Befaresya, ma'avir, if you could do it publicly, do it. If not, cause it. For example, if you see someone that fell into a well and there's a ladder, go and take away the ladder. Cause the death of these types of people. Look at the next line. Says Rabbi Yosef, when is that? If a Yid does Averis and he continues does Averis constantly for the sake of the Averis. For example, someone who shepherds small animals because they go into other people's fields and they do damage and they eat food. That they're constant... they're caught up in theft, and they continue in their path of evil. But a Yid who does Averis, but is not categorized as a Rasha, he does Averis la'nos for his own benefit. He's not spiting God. He eats treif, fine, but l'teyovin, he likes it. It's a mitzvah to save him. It's also to stand by his blood. So that's the halacha. On the other hand, look at number 16. This is in Yeredeah. If someone is an avarian, if someone violates averis just to anger God, even one mitzvah, like he eats treif just to anger God, when kosher meat is available, so why is he eating the treif? Dafka. It's also to redeem him if he was captive, taken captive. Look at the next line, says the Ramah, but if someone's an avarian l'teyov, and if someone violates only for their own pleasure, there's no isser. If you want to redeem him, it's not prohibited, but you're not chayiv to. So this, off the bat, this seems to be a contradiction. In number 15, the Shulchan Aruch says if someone does averis l'teyovan, it's a mitzvah to save him. It's usher to stand by his blood. And over here, the Ramah says, if someone does Averis for their own Te'avoin, you don't have to redeem them. I thought there's a mitzvah to save them. You can't stand by their blood, by his blood. So, in number 16, the Taz says that it's not just a guy does Averis L'Te'avoin. He constantly does it. But even so, it's not a contradiction, because in number 15, it's talking about to save the guy that's drowning. Here you're talking about redeeming him. It costs money. That already he doesn't get the benefit, the rights, the Jewish rights of having the community pay money for him. So says R Yechiel of Parizh, he quotes these sources, not together, it's kind of frazzled, but he says, this guy in the chemistry class is harassing, the nerd, the scholar, the nerd. He's harassing him day after day, he's bullying him. He's not stopping. So here's what the Shulchan Aruch says in number 15, Pakru begezel. He's in theft. And he's not doing it, he's doing it just to annoy the guy, just to harass the guy. He thinks such a person, there's no mitzvah to save him. There's no isra of lo samad al dam reyecha. If somebody's a public nuisance, harassing people with theft again and again and again, the isra of lo samad does not apply, and that's it. You can poison the sandwich. So in Sikkum, he says that he believes it's mutter to poison the sandwich. You can booby trap your home, but if someone, an unsuspecting guy, actually walks into your home and gets hurt, he says he thinks you will be responsible. The person has to be deserving of it, because or else you have lo samad, it has to be deserving of it. And the question is a sign. Do you have to give him some forewarning? That depended on how he answers the Shiloh from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Shlomo Zalman said by the ladder was obvious to the guy, he wouldn't fall. So R Zilberstein, on the one hand, he said, so too by the sandwich. It should have been obvious to the perpetrator, might be poison, which means in all circumstances, there needs to be some inkling. The perpetrator has to have some inkling that there's a danger here. But according to the answer he gave in number 13, that when he comes to you and is completely on his head, you don't have to forewarn him. So the warning would remain dependent on those two answers, but he does think it would depend on who's coming in.
He said that's his final. He comes to that conclusion.
He said he spoke about it with Rabbi Yoshev, and he agreed to him.
Changed his opinion over time.
Well, he's qualifying it.
He qualified.
Right. No, over here he's definitely comfortable to say it.
He's not as hardcore as he was.
Right. It sounds like you always do booby traps. But the problem is, so there's a difference, damage versus death. If the R Yechiel of Parizh was only going to cause damage or just annoyance, it's when you have death where you have the issue of lo samad al dam reyecha. If it's damage, it's much easier to say, well, he did it to himself. Even though we saw you're not allowed to damage a guy in your home, you could just throw him out. That's to actively do it. But if he walks into the trap, you could hear it's his problem. But by death, you have the issue of the samad al dam reyecha.
So what if he does it according to R Zilberstein up until the point he doesn't poison? He doesn't put enough to kill the guy. He puts enough to choke him and have serious heartache. That would be okay.
Okay. We'll end over here.